Have you ever felt a quiet tension in the air, like someone close to you was carrying a truth your soul could already sense? Sometimes, the biggest secrets aren't out there, they're right at home. When God decides it's time, hidden truths rise to the surface in ways no one can control. Stay close, this is where it begins. One of the first and most powerful signs that something hidden is coming to light is a sudden, noticeable shift in your mother's emotional energy. Even before words are spoken, the atmosphere around her begins to change. You might sense a new kind of distance, as if she's emotionally stepping back without explanation. Conversations that used to flow easily might now feel tense or guarded. She may respond with shorter answers, avoid certain topics, or seem distracted when you're around. This withdrawal isn't always intentional. It's often the soul's natural way of protecting itself when a hidden truth is about to surface. On the other hand, some mothers may react in the opposite way. They suddenly become overly attentive, extra affectionate, or unusually involved in your life. At first, this might seem sweet or even comforting, but if you pay attention, the shift often carries an underlying nervousness. It's like someone trying to hold a door shut before a storm breaks through. This overcompensation can be a subtle way of easing guilt or trying to control the narrative before you uncover the truth on your own. These changes are often more visible in the small moments than in grand gestures. For example, she might avoid eye contact during casual conversations, fidget with her hands when a specific subject comes up, or abruptly change topics when you get close to something sensitive. These are emotional tells, clues that something beneath the surface is stirring. Even if she doesn't say a word, her energy, expressions, and body language can speak volumes. Spiritually, this is often how God begins the process of revelation. Long before the truth is spoken, he softens the emotional atmosphere, allowing the spiritually sensitive, like many chosen ones, to sense that something is shifting. Your heightened awareness isn't paranoia, it's discernment. God often lets you feel the change before you understand it, giving you time to prepare emotionally and spiritually for what's about to come. Recognizing these emotional shifts is the first step toward clarity, not confrontation. It's about paying attention, trusting what your spirit notices, and allowing divine timing to reveal the rest. When something has been hidden for a long time, the truth rarely stays perfectly contained, especially when God decides it's time for exposure. One of the clearest ways this happens is through unplanned, accidental slips during everyday conversations. These moments often seem ordinary at first. A casual remark over dinner, a sudden comment during a heated discussion, or a sentence that doesn't quite match the family story you've always been told. But if you're paying attention, these small cracks in the narrative are often divine cues. For example, your mother might mention a name you've never heard before, someone connected to your past, then quickly brush it off as nothing important. Or she could reference an event or timeline that doesn't fit what you've been told growing up. Sometimes it happens in emotionally charged moments, like arguments, where guarded words suddenly escape in frustration. You don't even know what really happened that year. These bursts are rarely random. They're emotional pressure valves releasing what has been building beneath the surface. God often uses these slips to position you to notice what you otherwise might overlook. He allows the truth to surface in ways that seem natural but are perfectly timed. You might overhear a private conversation by chance, find yourself in the right place at the right time, or catch a moment where her guard is momentarily down. These instances aren't coincidences. They're signs that divine timing is in motion and that the truth is closer than it appears. The key here is to stay calm and observant rather than confrontational. When you hear something unexpected, resist the urge to immediately challenge it. Instead, note it internally and allow more pieces to unfold. Usually, one accidental slip is followed by another until a fuller picture begins to form. Think of these moments like puzzle pieces falling into place, not through your effort, but through divine orchestration. When God exposes, he does it step by step, giving you just enough light to see the next part of the path. Another powerful sign that hidden truths are on the verge of surfacing is a growing sense of spiritual restlessness. This isn't the same as paranoia or overthinking. It's a deep inner stirring that won't go away no matter how much you try to ignore it. You might find yourself repeatedly sensing that something isn't adding up, even if everything on the outside appears normal. It can feel like an internal alarm quietly ringing in the background, nudging you to pay closer attention to the atmosphere around you and your interactions with your mother. Often, this restlessness is accompanied by intensified intuition. You may begin recalling old memories you haven't thought about in years, almost as if they're being replayed for a reason. Certain words, places, or topics may suddenly stand out with unusual weight, as if the spiritual spotlight has shifted towards something you once overlooked. This isn't random. Spiritually, it's often God preparing your awareness to receive truth at the right moment. At the same time, divine timing events begin to align in ways that are too precise to dismiss. For example, you might unexpectedly stumble upon old photographs, letters, or documents that seem to appear just when your inner sense of something hidden intensifies. You might meet someone who casually mentions details related to your family's past, or you may keep hearing the same phrase or reference in unrelated places. These are spiritual breadcrumbs, God's way of getting you toward clarity without direct confrontation. Another layer of this is the acceleration of events. When divine exposure is near, life circumstances seem to line up quickly and unexpectedly. Plans shift, conversations happen by chance, and things that were previously buried start surfacing almost effortlessly. You might feel like everything is happening at once, but that's often because the appointed time for truth has arrived. The best way to handle this stage is to remain spiritually alert and emotionally steady. Instead of rushing to force answers, allow these signs to unfold. God often gives you an inner sense first, then brings external confirmations in perfect order. This combination of inner restlessness and divinely timed events is a clear signal. The truth is approaching, and your spirit is being prepared to receive it. When hidden truths are about to surface, it's rarely just one person who feels the pressure. Often, those around the situation, especially close family members, start behaving differently toward you even if they don't say a word. This shift can be subtle at first, but once you notice it, it becomes impossible to ignore. Their body language, tone, and even the way they interact in group settings begin to reflect the tension of something unspoken hanging in the air. One common sign is sudden nervousness. Relatives who used to act casually might now seem overly careful with their words when you're present. They may glance at each other before answering questions, change subjects quickly when certain topics arise, or avoid prolonged conversations with you altogether. Their energy feels cautious, like they're walking on eggshells, afraid that one wrong word might reveal more than they intend. Even simple family gatherings can carry a quiet undercurrent of discomfort that wasn't there before. Another noticeable shift is overchecking or increased curiosity. You might find certain family members reaching out more frequently, asking probing or oddly specific questions about your thoughts, your spiritual life, or things happening around you. Sometimes this comes from genuine concern, but often it's because they sense that you're getting closer to the truth and want to gauge how much you know. It's a way of checking the temperature without openly admitting what's going on. Then there's the coordinated silence, something many chosen ones pick up on instinctively. When several relatives seem to consistently avoid a specific topic, give vague answers, or deflect in the same way, it's often a sign that more than one person knows the truth you haven't been told. It's like watching people act from the same invisible script. No one says the secret directly, but their synchronized avoidance gives it away. Spiritually, this shift is significant because God often begins exposing secrets by changing the dynamics around you. Even those who intended to keep things hidden may unintentionally reveal more through their discomfort than through their words. It's as if divine light starts pressing on the entire family structure and the cracks begin to show through their behavior. Instead of confronting everyone immediately, observe carefully. These behavioral changes are signals, not accusations. They help you identify where the truth is held and prepare your heart for what's coming. When people start acting differently around you, it's often because the truth is no longer just a secret, it's becoming undeniable. Another revealing sign is the presence of long-standing patterns of control or emotional withholding that suddenly stand out to you in a new way. These are behaviors that might have seemed normal for years, but under divine light, they begin to look different, like puzzle pieces you finally see clearly for the first time. When God is exposing what's been hidden, he often sharpens your perception, making you aware of the subtle ways truth has been managed or suppressed in your family dynamic. One key pattern is emotional gatekeeping. Your mother may have positioned herself as the sole filter of family information, deciding what you should or shouldn't know when you can know it, and how it should be presented. This might manifest as her giving vague answers to direct questions, refusing to discuss certain past events, or telling you it's not important when you ask about something specific. Over time, this creates a dynamic where she controls not just the story, but also your emotional access to it. Another behavior is strategic silence. Instead of lying outright, some people avoid the truth by simply never talking about it. You might notice that certain family topics have always been off limits, brushed aside, or shut down before you could dig deeper. If you ever tried to ask questions, perhaps the mood shifted instantly. She became defensive, changed the subject, or made you feel like asking was inappropriate. This silence isn't accidental. It's often a carefully maintained barrier meant to protect a hidden narrative. There's also emotional withholding, which can be more subtle but equally powerful. Instead of controlling facts, this involves controlling emotional flow. Your mother may have withheld affection, approval, or emotional vulnerability as a way to keep certain boundaries in place. For instance, she might become emotionally closed off when conversations move towards sensitive areas, sending the message, whether consciously or not, that pursuing the truth threatens the emotional bond. What's striking is that, during times of divine exposure, these patterns suddenly become noticeable. You begin to see them not as random quirks, but as mechanisms that have been protecting something unspoken. Spiritually, this is often the moment when your discernment sharpens, allowing you to view past interactions with fresh clarity. Things that once confused you now make sense. The avoided questions, the shifting moods, the gaps in stories. Recognizing these patterns doesn't mean rushing to accuse or confront. It means acknowledging the structure that has been keeping the truth contained. When God exposes secrets, he often begins by showing you the walls that have been standing between you and the full story. Once you see those walls clearly, they begin to lose their power, and the truth finds its way through the cracks. When words and actions fail to reveal the truth, God often speaks through more subtle spiritual channels, especially to those with heightened sensitivity. One of the most striking ways this happens is through dreams, sudden insights, or what many chosen ones describe as downloads. These aren't random thoughts or fleeting images. They carry weight, emotional clarity, and a kind of quiet authority that stays with you long after you wake up or finish praying. Symbolic dreams are often the first sign. You might repeatedly dream of your childhood home, locked rooms, hidden letters, or your mother acting strangely in a way that doesn't match her real-life behavior. Sometimes, these dreams feel almost like memories trying to surface, while other times they're symbolic, using imagery to reflect truths your conscious mind hasn't fully grasped yet. For example, a locked room might represent hidden information, or a recurring storm in your dreams could symbolize emotional turbulence tied to family secrets. Pay attention to repeating symbols and emotional tones. They're often more telling than literal details. Prophetic insights can appear suddenly, often when your mind is quiet. You might be praying, sitting in silence, or going about your day when a clear understanding drops into your awareness without you trying to figure it out. It's that unmistakable moment when you just know something. This kind of spiritual knowing doesn't come with panic or confusion. Instead, it arrives with a calm, piercing clarity that makes denial impossible. It's as if a missing puzzle piece was gently placed into your hands by something higher. There's also the phenomenon of divine bypassing, where God reveals through spiritual means what people refuse to share through words. If your mother has kept something hidden tightly, God can communicate it directly to your spirit. This might happen through repeated scriptural verses that speak to your situation, sudden emotional downloads that align with reality later, or even through someone else unknowingly confirming what you already sensed internally. These moments are deeply personal and often feel sacred, like God pulling back a curtain only for your eyes to see. The key here is not to dismiss these spiritual experiences as mere imagination. While discernment is important, many chosen ones underestimate how clearly God can speak through dreams and intuition. If these messages keep resurfacing, it's usually because He wants your attention. Write them down, pray over them, and watch how real-life events begin aligning with what was revealed spiritually. When truth is close to being exposed, God often speaks first to your spirit, quietly, precisely, and unmistakably. When hidden truths involve family history, identity, or inheritance, they often leave behind a paper trail. Long before someone speaks up, the evidence can surface through unexpected financial documents, legal papers, or official records that don't match the stories you were told. This is one of the more tangible signs that God is bringing hidden things to light, because facts written on paper are much harder to deny or manipulate once they come into view. One common example is the sudden discovery of birth certificates, property papers, or old family records tucked away in storage, drawers, or forgotten boxes. You might find a document that lists a different name, date, or place than the one you've always known. Perhaps an unexpected relative appears on a legal form, or you come across financial transactions that don't make sense in the family timeline. These discoveries often happen at random moments, while cleaning, moving houses, or sorting through old belongings. But spiritually, these moments are rarely accidental. It's often divine timing at work, bringing the truth into your hands when you're ready to receive it. Another layer is financial discrepancies. Maybe you notice that the family's financial story doesn't quite align with the lifestyle you grew up with. There could be assets you were never told about, inheritance issues, or property under someone else's name. Sometimes it's not about money at all, but about identity, like adoption records, hidden marriages, or previously unknown siblings. These revelations can feel shocking because they challenge the foundation of what you believe to be true, but they're often the missing pieces that explain years of silence, tension, or carefully controlled narratives. Spiritual timing plays a big role here. God often allows these documents to surface exactly when the emotional and spiritual groundwork has been laid. If you had found them too early, they might have confused or overwhelmed you. But when the moment is right, you may accidentally open the right drawer, receive a letter, or overhear a conversation that leads you directly to the evidence. What seems like coincidence is often divine choreography designed to make the truth undeniable. The key is to handle these discoveries with both clarity and calm. Instead of rushing into confrontation, take time to examine what you've found carefully. Compare dates, names, and patterns. Pray for wisdom and discernment before making conclusions. Financial and legal revelations are often emotionally charged, but they're also some of the clearest signs that the hidden story is breaking open. When God brings the truth through documents, it's usually so it can no longer be controlled by emotion or manipulation. It stands firm, undeniable, and often changes everything. Another striking way hidden truths surface is through health challenges or sudden life crises. When a significant event shakes the foundation of daily life, it often loosens the grip on carefully guarded secrets. In these vulnerable moments, emotional walls crack, long-held defenses weaken, and what was once hidden finds its way to the surface, not by accident, but often by divine orchestration. One of the clearest examples is when your mother faces a serious health issue. Illness, aging, or sudden medical emergencies can bring up deep emotional reflection. People often begin to revisit their past, make peace with unfinished matters, or feel compelled to speak truths they've carried silently for years. A mother who once avoided sensitive topics may start sharing fragmented pieces of stories, asking odd questions, or indirectly hinting at things she previously denied. Sometimes it's not even through words. Emotional shifts, written notes, or last-minute confessions can emerge when time and vulnerability intersect. Crises aren't limited to health. Family emergencies, legal issues, unexpected deaths, property disputes, or financial collapse can act as catalysts that unravel hidden truths. When sudden events shake the family structure, secrets that were once protected by stability often spill out through necessity. For example, a legal situation might force certain documents to be revealed, or a dispute might bring long-suppressed facts to the surface in heated discussions. In these moments, the truth often comes out abruptly and without the usual emotional filters. Spiritually, these crises are rarely random. They often align with divine timing, acting as pressure points designed to bring the hidden into the light. God sometimes allows shaking moments not to harm, but to expose what has been blocking spiritual growth and clarity. When everything seems to be falling apart, it may actually be that the layers of secrecy are being peeled back so healing can finally take place. These situations can be emotionally overwhelming, especially if the revelations are unexpected or life-altering. That's why it's crucial to stay spiritually grounded. Rather than rushing to react, give yourself space to process what surfaces. Health and crisis events often act like divine megaphones, amplifying the truth that has been whispered for years. When they arrive, it's not to destroy you, but to make sure nothing hidden remains in the shadows. Sometimes what your mother has been hiding isn't just a personal secret. It's part of a longer generational pattern that has been passed down quietly through the family line. These are the kinds of hidden truths that don't just affect one person. They shape entire family dynamics, emotional habits, and spiritual atmospheres over decades. When God decides it's time for exposure, he often does it through the one person chosen to break the cycle, and that's often you. One of the clearest signs is noticing repeating emotional or behavioral patterns across generations. For example, perhaps there's a consistent theme of abandonment, secrecy, or strained mother-child relationships in your family history. You might see similar reactions, communication styles, or unspoken rules mirrored between grandparents, parents, and siblings. What once seemed like just how our family is begins to reveal itself as a pattern, a spiritual inheritance that's been quietly shaping lives for years. When these patterns become visible to you, it's often because God is calling you to bring them to light and end them, not continue them. Another layer involves unspoken traumas and ancestral secrets. Many families have events that were never fully discussed: hidden adoptions, lost siblings, affairs, miscarriages, abuse, or shameful incidents that were buried to protect the family image. Over time, these secrets don't disappear. They transform into emotional undercurrents that influence behavior, beliefs, and even relationships. You may not have been told the details, but you feel their weight in the way family members interact, avoid, or react to certain subjects. These are spiritual echoes of untold stories. God often chooses a spiritually sensitive member of the family, the chosen one, to finally recognize these patterns, break the silence, and change the direction of the lineage. This doesn't happen through blame or anger, but through discernment and courage. You may find yourself being the first to ask the uncomfortable questions, confront the repeating cycles, or simply refuse to carry the same emotional burdens that were silently handed down. Spiritually, this moment of recognition is pivotal. It means the truth is no longer content to remain buried, it's seeking to be healed. When you see these generational patterns clearly, you're being invited to bring light to what has been hidden for years, perhaps even decades. This is why the process can feel heavy. You're not just facing one person's secret, you're standing at the crossroads of generations. But with awareness and divine guidance, these cycles can be broken, and your family's spiritual inheritance can shift from secrecy to freedom. As you grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, something profound begins to happen. Deception simply can't survive in your presence the way it used to. This isn't because you suddenly become confrontational or suspicious. It's because the frequency of truth and discernment you carry makes lies, half-truths, and hidden motives vibrate differently. Things that once blended into the background now stand out sharply, and people who once controlled narratives find it increasingly difficult to maintain their facades around you. One of the clearest signs is a heightened sense of discernment. You may notice that conversations that once felt normal now feel off, even if nothing explicit is said. Your inner spirit picks up on inconsistencies, emotional tension, and subtle shifts in tone. A story might sound polished, but something deep inside tells you this isn't the whole picture. You're no longer as easily swayed by appearances or emotional manipulation because your spiritual awareness has matured. This growth often causes people who have been hiding something to become visibly uncomfortable around you. They might avoid long conversations, become defensive over minor questions, or try to steer clear of emotionally honest moments. It's not necessarily that you're accusing anyone, it's that your presence now carries a light that naturally exposes shadows. Spiritually, this is God's way of working through you. You don't have to force exposure. Your growth itself makes deception unsustainable. In some cases, the truth surfaces on its own simply because it can no longer exist in the same space as your elevation. Documents appear, stories unravel, confessions happen, or unexpected witnesses come forward. This is often when people say, "I didn't even have to do anything, it just came out." That's not coincidence, that's divine alignment. When your spiritual level rises, the environment around you shifts to match that clarity. This stage can feel both empowering and unsettling. Empowering because you finally see clearly, and unsettling because relationships, dynamics, and narratives may change permanently as a result. But it's crucial to remember, this exposure isn't meant to destroy you, it's meant to free you. God often allows truth to rise to the surface once you've become strong enough to handle it without fear or confusion. At this point, deception doesn't have to be chased down, it can't stay. Your elevation itself becomes the light that reveals what's real and what's not, setting the stage for truth, healing, and divine clarity to flourish in every part of your life. No truth can stay hidden forever. When God reveals, it's to set you free, not break you. Trust His timing and stand strong. Comment, "I choose divine clarity" below.